today's Customer Data Platform Summit India, brought to you by Lemnisk. I am Subra Krishnan, CEO of Lemnisk, and I will be your host today. A very quick word on Lemnisk before kicking off. Lemnisk's customer data platform-led personalization and marketing automation delivers superior customer experiences that result in increased conversions, retention, and growth for enterprises. The key capabilities include the ability to uniquely resolve a user in real time across different data sources and channels, creating one-to-one hyper-personalized experiences for each user across multiple marketing channels, orchestrating individual customer journeys on the right channels at the right time using a proprietary inbuilt AI engine called Ramanujan. Lemnisk has offices in Dubai, Singapore, Bangalore, and Boston. Lemnisk is ISO 27001 and ISO 27018 certified. For more information, please visit www.lemnisk.co. That's lemnisk.co. You can also email us at marketing@lemnisk.co if you're looking for CDP-driven marketing automation or personalization this year. So that's the quick introduction out of our way. So let's dive right in. So today's Customer Data Platform Summit is actually the third and final of 3 summits that we planned across Southeast Asia, Middle East, and India regions. We had our Singapore and Dubai events earlier this month, which was very, very well received. And so today is actually the India session, and we have a very, very exciting session planned today as well. I was actually a little bit worried in the beginning about attendance, given today was the scheduled 3rd day of the Motera test match. But well, as we all know, that's not an issue anymore. So we can just enjoy the conference without worrying about what the score is. Now, we put together this event focused on data-driven marketing, mainly because we are seeing a strong trend in this region among marketeers who are starting to understand and leverage the power of their customer data. I think it's also fair to say that as we slowly heal from the scars of COVID-19, being data and digital savvy is no longer a trend, but almost a survival mandate. The speakers today represent some of the sharpest minds in the region who are at the forefront of this trend and are experts at harnessing data to transform their businesses. As a digital marketing enthusiast, I couldn't be more excited. I'm really, really looking forward to the session today. So here's a quick summary of what's in store ahead. We will kick off today's summit with a panel session titled Modern Marketing Stack for the Decade Ahead. Deepak Oram, Head of Martech and Automation at HDFC Bank. Mayank Gupta, Senior Director D2C Business Auto at Acko Insurance. Gaurang Sanghvi, Head Digital Business at DSP Mutual Fund, will talk through how to build a future-proof Martech stack and the approaches and best practices on collecting, organizing, and analyzing customer data. I will introduce them in more detail when we start off in a few minutes. After the panel, in a fireside chat titled Transformative Martech Leadership, we will have Sanjay Pereira, Senior Vice President at National Development Bank, PLS Sri Lanka, talk about what it takes to craft and execute a successful digital transformation strategy. The last panel session for this evening, titled The Rise of the Super Intelligent Marketer, will feature Sapna Desai, Head of Marketing and Online Sales at Manipal Cigna Health Insurance, S. Swaminathan, the Executive Director Group Strategy at RK Swami Hansa Group, and Vaidyanathan Ramani, who's Head Product and Innovation at Policy Bazaar. They will talk about customer experience in the decade ahead, driving business outcomes with customer data, and leveraging machine learning and AI effectively. So there you have it. That's the packed agenda that we have for today. What a fantastic afternoon ahead. As I said, I'm really, really excited. Now, we will stay on time, so we don't expect to really have a lot of delays. Beyond maybe a few minutes across these sessions. So grab your popcorn and stay glued to the sessions. Let's dive right in. Wonderful. So let's start off our first event for the day, Modern Martech Stack for the Decade Ahead. Succeeding with modern marketing requires a combination of out-of-the-box thinking, creativity, and a strong techno-analytical bent of mind. Our speakers for the first panel today have demonstrated all of these skills many times over in their careers. Our first speaker is Deepak Oram. Deepak started his journey in digital in the early days of the internet in the late 90s as a teenager. He honed his skills as an entrepreneur, managing and marketing his own digital businesses, from selling internet server infra to online graphic design. Early inclinations towards coding and developing digital businesses led Deepak to explore digital marketing as a career, and he spent time in ICICI Bank in digital acquisitions, after which he built the complete marketing and straight-through processing stack for IDFC First Bank. In his current role at HDFC Bank, Deepak dedicates his time to imagining new innovations for a large data-driven marketing team. He owns the charter of bringing to life insight-led omni-channel customer experiences by re-engineering HDFC Bank's marketing stack hidden behind and tightly integrated into its digital platforms. Deepak enjoys psychology, anthropology, and technology, a subject matter which he draws upon to inspire his technology and customer experience decision making. Welcome, Deepak. Our next speaker is Mayank Gupta. Mayank is a startup enthusiast and loves to build and grow businesses ground up. He has been working in the insurtech space for the last 6 years and has been pivotal in the growth of CoverFox, an insurance aggregator, and Acko, a digital-first insurer. Currently, he leads the growth for direct-to-consumer vertical of auto insurance at Acko. In his leisure time, Mayank loves to take his 2-year-old daughter on an ice cream date. He also mentors startups on their digital strategy. We round off our elite panel today with Gaurang Sanghvi. Gaurang is currently the head of digital at DSP Mutual Fund. He has over 15 years of experience in finance, consulting, and digital. Gaurang has previously worked in organizations such as Vcash, Tala, RBL Bank, Jimmy, and Maypro Foods. He has also had a brief stint as an entrepreneur by founding 2 companies, Instacash and Budget Messenger. Deepak, Mayank, Gaurang, a very, very warm welcome to the panel, Modern Martech Stack for the Decade Ahead. Thank you so much for taking the time out today. Really appreciate your time. Without further delay, once again, a warm welcome to the panel, and let's just get started. So I will kick off this panel session, with a question. Maybe Deepak, I'll go with you first, and then I'll sort of go around the panel once. So one of the things that we are obviously seeing, and maybe the pandemic to some extent has accelerated it, is that customers are increasingly going more and more digital. They are leaving a lot more digital trail or digital footprint behind, and also there is a sort of explosion of customer data, if you will, across so many data sources and touch points now. So I think one of the first questions that marketers generally have, and maybe that's where you could start and sort of we can try to understand your thought process. How do you really try to control and make sense of this data? Maybe let's start there. Or to you, Deepak.
So Subra, I think it's a different situation for banks, right? So while the traffic on our websites and properties, right, people exploring products has gone up, it has not gone up beyond your typical year-on-year increase, about 10 to 20%, right? So what is the reason? And of course, if you're a digital-first business, maybe it might be slightly different for you because people will then come to you more because people can't move out of their houses, they can't go to a store, so they don't. So they will probably start using Amazon or a Swiggy or one of these things, more. But for a bank, what I've realized is that while the people are coming onto the website, are trying to look at financial products, there is no need for financial products as such currently in their lives, at least for the last 6 to 9 months. Right? People stop traveling, people stop like furnishing their house, people stop swiping their credit card, they stop going for dinners, right? So they stop looking. There was lack of demand in the market itself, right? So little funny question to answer, because so I know if you are stuck at home, you will go more digital. But as a banker, I've not noticed people coming that much more, because I think the demand for financial services has actually gone down because of the situation we are in, right? Because lifestyle constrained is constrained in such a way that people do not want to spend money or do not want to make any big life decisions, financial decisions. So digitally, people have not come so far, at least from a bank, I can tell you. I'm sure if you are an e-commerce company or if you are in the digital first industry, probably a different case for you.
Got it.
My analysis basically is there's a huge latent need. And it'll and of course I'm counting my chickens before they hatch. But next year, I think the numbers will go big time. Right? In the next financial year, with the lockdown, we do unlock. Right? There's a huge latent need to live life, travel, buy things, which will come to the fore in the next year, and we should see some roaring numbers for banks, at least, especially on the digital side.
Got it. Got it. I'll come back to you on that because I do want to make sure that we also get a sense from you in terms of how you can go about collecting and organizing this data. But let me go to Gaurang and then to Mayank. Gaurang, your thoughts. Like, what are your thoughts on how you really try to make sense out of the data in terms of organizing it and collecting it?
No, so I think contrary to Deepak, right, while people have not had ways to spend their debit card or credit cards, they have found ways to spend on their investment accounts. Right. For the first time, people have had time to think. Right. Yes, markets have been extremely volatile, but markets are volatile as the nature of the game. But people have time to reorganize and reassess their financial situation and their investment journey. And I think unlike this thing, and I say this for the most of all industry as well, people who were digitally first or had the digital native context as a mutual fund or an asset management company or any distribution of financial product have seen a complete change of context, right? That earlier the requirement was that you come to my house, I'll fill up a form. Now it's gone, right? Because we're not going to physically meet around. Coming to one of your questions was that today customers are leaving interesting tidbits of who they want to be and when they want to be, so that for any digital organization can learn from them and then assess their business model and align to the customer. Right now, there is no excuse of not knowing your customer well enough, right? Or finding surrogates. If you don't have those data sets of a given customer, at least creating some form of first level of human and human induced correlations and eventually a system driven correlations of cohorts. Yeah. Right. And we're sitting in a very, very interesting trajectory that whatever investments today organizations make in their technology will not have a 1x, 2x, 4x, but possibly have a 100x potential for their online business in the next 5 to 7 years. And, that's the question people have to answer, especially at the enterprise side.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mayank, maybe your thoughts, and you could jump in with some perspectives on how you've done it at CoverFox and Acko before. I know you have really built some of these systems here. So why don't you jump in here?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. So, first of all, as Deepak said, maybe at HDFC, they were saying they weren't seeing, much of a growth or much of a shift in the consumer experience. But in the insurtech space, right, while the COVID happened, the link between agent, dealer, and the user got broken completely. And in the first 2 months, maybe, the April and May, we were not seeing any demand. But post that, the surge in demand, I believe, was very much on the, digital side only, on the insurtech space, right? And at least at Acko, we have a very wide array of touch points, including your web app, contact center as well, the entire Martech, and all other marketing activities which we do, which is maybe a pull or a push form, whatever, right? And it becomes really, really important to understand that what these users are communicating to us, and then it becomes really important that you really can't think in silos. You have to make sure that there is one system which sits, in between, wherein you, collect every sort of information. First to collate every sort of information, and those could be structured, those could be unstructured. You never care. First is the understanding is you have to collate everything, and once you have it, you make sure, okay, how can I read it, right? How can I make any sense out of it? Then comes to the basic point. Okay, now I have all the information from all valid touch points. What sort of cohorting I can do to make any sense out of it. Now, these cohorts could have multiple use cases. There are multiple functions within the org, right? Let's say a product team or an underwriting team or a marketing team, right? For a marketeer, maybe my marketing team would like to understand if a consumer, who has landed on Acko, if that user is price sensitive, or maybe he is a brand loyal, right? Or maybe he would respond to the servicing angle more compared to the pricing, right? Now, until unless I don't understand those things, or maybe we don't understand those things, we really can't communicate in the right way. The same thing goes for, the product as well. Gone are the days wherein we have one plain vanilla product for everyone. You'll always be on the minimum of the conversion rate, right? You have to find out those small pockets, cohorts, wherein you can say, okay, can I personalize my stuff? Can I write a better web copy? Can I give you a better product recommendation? Can I give you a better insurance declared value or not? Can I give you a better servicing? then you will find out, that, okay, those small pockets, when start improving, when start converting better, you find a global maximum of conversion rate, right? So at Acko, every time we have started believing in, it's very important to understand the user. Okay, and to understand the user, you have to understand that what is he doing. Now when you say what is he doing, because he's available on 5, 6, 7, 10 touch points, you have to first collate everything, start making some sense out of it, create cohorts, and then respond. You really can't respond in the dark, otherwise you're just shooting in the dark. Sometimes you will hit it, most of the times you'll miss it. So that's how we are going about it, and I believe in the last 2.5 years, where have been operational, we have seen we have barely started scratching the surface. But I mean, real exciting times ahead while we see some real success.
Absolutely. I think like Deepak was also saying, I think we just scratched the surface of digital, and it's great. So I think Gaurang, you spoke of who and what, and of the user, and Mayank, you touched upon the need to really aggregate all data sources and then really try to build cohorts. Deepak, I want to come back to you here, and I know that you mentioned that while during the pandemic, you didn't see a big shift in traffic, right? But certainly, I know that HDFC as a bank has been extremely strong. That is one thing that really stands out every time we look at HDFC Bank and what it's doing, right? So, from your perspective, what are ways in which you try to understand the user? What kind of user insights do you try to extract and leverage, from the sort of data that you're seeing? And how do you use this intelligence to drive business outcomes? Give us some sense of that. You're on mute.
My bad, I was on mute. So I think, look, HDFC Bank has taken a journey over the last 3 years. So very simply, typical a traditional bank, right? They'll, the understanding was always that, look, so people banking with us, you swipe your cards with us, you invest with us, or from at least your salary getting credit to your bank account. We know a lot about you. Right? That was the understanding that a lot of us, at least a lot of traditional bankers had. Right? How has that changed in the last 3 years? It has changed dramatically in the last 3 years, right? Because see, everyone is not loyal to you, right? And when we've been learning through surveys, through just customer research, consumer research, that everyone has 3 bank accounts. Look at yourselves, everyone here in this group, you probably have 3 bank accounts.
Yeah.
So slowly, the bankers have started realizing, boss, while you have a bank account with me, I may not be a preferred partner in banking, right? So you may not be doing your credit card swipe with me, or you may not be doing your salary credit with me, but you just hold a credit card with me, for example. So we know only as much about you as we are engaging with you, right? The moment you get turned off by a bank, the less and less we know. It's like it's a snowball effect, right? So that creates a huge problem for us, right? So then we started thinking, okay, look, this might be customer is not engaged with us, but what is he doing on our properties, on our website, on our apps, right? The customer probably can be upgraded into a higher, more engaged customer. So while you know a lot about your customers who are already engaged with you, you do not know so much about customers who are not so well engaged with you.
Sure.
So that part we're building now, the entire digital footprint, who does what, right? Which kind of customer who's engaged has what kind of behavior on the website versus a disengaged customer or a intermediate level engagement customer, right? So we're trying to figure stuff out. Okay. Now then, once you have done that, saying this is the customer who I have a physical footprint, a physical transaction on, and some digital behavior, let's find out people who have no transactions with us, but have digital behavior that is similar to people who have a transaction behavior with us. So we're looking at surrogates of transaction behavior with digital behavior, right? This could be prospects. This could be people who are not very engaged with us. And this data set also we go after and say, look, he may not have 10 lakh rupees in the account today, but his digital footprint seems like he probably has it.
Yeah.
That's what our lookalike model tells us, right?
Yeah.
So that way, I think become interesting, and bankers are slowly learning the value of digital data and digital footprints in conjunction with your transaction data, your salary, your financial information can be a gold mine. Not a gold mine because you want to monetize the data, but because you want to serve the customer better and figure out who has more value that you can offer to.
Wonderful. Now, there's some fantastic insights there. And I think I especially like the point that you made about lookalike and using that to understand user behavior. Gaurang, let me come to you there, because I know that you have also tried tried many of these things. You iterated on it multiple times. And I think for DSP, I know that the data journey has been a sort of pretty long one now. So what kind of insights have you managed to extract and use, and sort of what sort of business outcomes have you seen? Just talk us through that a little bit.
See, in our profession, right, and we are perhaps the midway between a pull product, which is a savings account, to a insurance, which is completely a push product, right? We're actually in the context where we are slightly confused in who we exist for the user, right? Eventually, customers want to give you money that you, as an organization, grow, right? As a digital platform, my job is to ensure that 2-3 things happen. We become a responsible investment platform, right? What it means is that, am I showing the right financial product for the right customer, or the reverse, right? That if somebody has achieved a particular growth rate in a particular subsector that they invested purely because they saw past returns, can I tell you about that, right? That, the gold rally, for example, was a great rally last year. We don't know what it looks. I'm just giving an example. Don't take me as the context of this thing. But understanding the user and what his objective is becomes exceptionally critical in our space, right? Because we are now running a multi-year journey, and we're only hoping to be your investment platform for not just a decade, but a multi-decade context. And hence the relationship building through right and responsible advice is critical, and that only can happen by narrowly understanding your customer segment and what they want to do without they communicating it, right? And that's the hard part, right? What parts of the sites they're spending more time on? How are they, responding to the risk indicators that we are showcasing, and so on and so forth, right? It's an endless or a continuous spiral. But the fact of understanding customer insight and what they want to achieve, can we make them achieve at the easiest, most possible? And if they are contrary to our opinions, how can we let them be more educated about the same?
Got it. Mayank, just echoing Gaurang's thoughts there in terms of narrowly understanding your user and then being able to sort of copy. I think some of what you were saying also mirrors that, Mayank. So if you could maybe just also talk about the kinds of business outcomes you've seen, because I know there are many people in the audience listening in right now who'd love to sort of understand the linkage between sort of understanding data and then sort of revenue or downstream metrics. So just talk us through that a little bit from your perspective as well.
Sure. See, first of all, there are like multiple outcomes, which we influence from the data, right? If I were to talk about the North Star matrix, right, for any direct-to-consumer brand, these 4 metrics are very critical, which is how is your top of the funnel trending? Then if let's say 100 users are landing on your website, what would be the conversion rate? Then, if 100 users are buying from you, what's the average purchase order value, right? And fourth is, if 100 users have bought from you, how can you make sure that you retain, if not 100, most of them, right? Let me pick up one of the North Star metric, which is a conversion rate, which could be a KPI of a product manager, maybe, right? So now when I say we have to understand users much better, and if I were to extend my argument on cohorting, right? So our attempt is always try and understand users wherein, there's a cohort of users wherein we say if they are affordable or not. Okay, if the affordability is low or high. Okay. Yeah. Then second could be, if their digital engagement is low or high. Okay. Third is maybe if their novelty is low or high, let's say, right? When I say novelty is around if the user could try multiple merchants or multiple brands or not, or maybe he's a brand loyal, he would retain to the same merchant, right? While he could be an explorer, but when it comes about, paying the money, he will never do that, right? Now let me pick one of the cohorts, let's say affordability. So a user who has a high affordability compares to a user who has a low affordability. No point, talking about savings to a user who has very high affordability. Yeah. Right. Compared to the one, if a user has low affordability, you talk about how good a great brand you are, and you are not even saying that, I am a great brand, but you will end up saving $100 compared to the other person, right? That's how I'm placed, and yet you enjoy the best servicing as well. So you have to see what's the leading communication basis the cohort. The second thing, maybe let's say a user who has the higher affordability, we have an opportunity to increase the average order value as well. So I would say maybe I'll recommend him a plan, which is like a bundled offer, wherein a user wouldn't even think twice, that because he would see things not an incremental value, he would say, okay, it's only worth $200 and I can enjoy many benefits. Let's just go ahead, right? Compared to one who has a low affordability, if I say, this plan is just $199, he would say, man, I was even wondering if I could buy a 3,000 rupee product, and you are saying, can you also attach a 199? Okay, I'm going, right? So now these things become really, really important while we talk about cohorting and about recommendation. Let me just extend to the other cohort as well. Let's say a digital engagement. So Acko is of the philosophy, while at least we are trying to, again, we have just barely scratched the surface there, that we don't want to, assist every user who doesn't need assistance.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah.
There are users, internet penetration is increasing. People are not that ignorant about the products. They do their research on internet and everything, right? And there are cohort of users who don't want to get called by contact center agents. We have our case studies wherein when agents are talking to customers, they become detractors, right? So no point that every time you want to give an assistance. So let's say if a digital engagement is I'll allow that user to consume the product which I have built by my blood and sweat, right? Rather than giving a contact center agent, okay, go and assist that user. Okay, so I'll maybe bypass those 50% of users who have high digital engagement and tell them, why don't you consume the product and buy on your own? Maybe after a week I'll reach out to you to understand, sir, what happened wrong, what went wrong, right? And the other class of users who has low digital engagement, just after I have told them what services I sell, I have to ask them, sir, is there any assistance I can give you? Were you thinking of some other plan? What's the problem you are facing on the website? So these things really matter, not only in driving business outcomes, but a very great customer experience as well. Wherein how do you personalize, the experience for the user? And the personalization comes when you treat me the way I am, rather than you treat me to like an average, cohort.
Yeah.
So that's how we are trying to build drive the business outcomes, I would say.
Fantastic insights there. I think from all three of you, I think there are some very, very valuable points that we can take away. So let me ask a question again, maybe back to you, Deepak. I know you've done this across ICICI, across IDFC Bank, and across HDFC as well. As an expert, let's say and you're trying to advise somebody who's just getting started on their Martech journey, on the data-driven marketing journey, right? So, given all that you have learned, and I'm sure there have been pitfalls and some mishaps along the way as well, what are some of the tips, best practices that you would offer to marketers who are just getting started with digital? Your perspectives there would be very valuable.
I think, look, the first thing that I have always felt is important before you think about technology investments is that how data driven is your organization, right? That's something that I've always felt is a precursor to success.
Very
in terms of investments in Martech, right? A lot of organizations tend to not have this data-driven operating model, right? Saying, look, I will look at my dashboard every day. I will not only look at my overall numbers, but I'll drill down to at least level 3 and see what is happening, right? That inquisitiveness, that curiosity has to be there within the organization first. How do you build it? Is of course is for digital native organizations that comes very, very easy because that's your bread and for slightly offline organizations, you have to work a little hard to build that culture in the first place. But that's to me, that's the starting point, right? For leaders to ask questions of their 1, 2, 3 down, saying, do you know what happened to this customer segment in this month? And is that segment growing? And there has to be a granular sort of micro segment saying, do you understand this micro segment who's profitable to you? So this culture in the first place has to be set up, and the only people who can set up are the leadership. Right? They have to ask the right questions. Then once you ask the question, the team will come back to you and say, sir, I cannot give you information because my dashboard doesn't have this feed. Okay, my customer, customer first party data is not organized correctly, or it is in somewhat of a lag. It will refreshes once a month, sir. I cannot give you that information today. Please, can I come back in the next meeting and give you? Right, that will give you a good perspective on, okay, great. At least my team has gone ahead and tried, and they are not able to do it. Then slowly you will realize, if I enable my teams, and especially the teams that are empowered with this inquisitiveness, this curiosity, to understand and deep dive into customers, then you empower them with Martech tools. I think you will see some great conversations happening within multiple teams in your organization, right? Because there's burning questions which were never able to be answered before, and suddenly you give them a tool where not only they can understand, and of course, holy grail, they can act upon it also in real time. If you can, that is the way I think progress happens. So I think this data-driven culture needs to be thought of first, then the investments, and then you can then track how the investments are helping this culture that you've already created. So to me, Subra, that is the first point of starting, especially in traditional organizations. Digital first organizations, I think it is somewhat of a given, but again, there is no harm in building the culture again. But to me, from a traditional organization, that is the first thing we should start with.
Wonderful. No, that's so valuable. Start from the top, and because culture starts there, and build that data-driven culture is the key message that you gave, Deepak. It's a wonderful one. In fact, in the next session with Sanjay, I would love to ask him about some of these things as well. So we'll be covering that in the next session as well. Gaurang, your views, any pitfalls, any best practices, learnings, tips from your side?
I think the first context is about understanding what you want to achieve, right? In anything especially in data, because you can get lost and biases can be created very, very fast. If you start looking at the data in a way that it's not serving the objectives that are laid out, right? And eventually this is a landmine, right? This is just endless amount of, I'd like to, have this word and please allow me if this thing, right? Intellectualization, or perhaps paralysis by analysis, right?
Analysis paralysis.
Yeah. So analysis by paralysis. So question has to be asked as a group together, that what do we want to achieve, and create micro goals. I normally am not a big fan of achieving the large things. Once they are set, the direction is set, then just create micro goals and try to achieve it. It's literally like putting a brick on a wall, right? Once you know where you want to put a wall and what's the structure of this thing, take a brick at a time and cement it, and it's okay if some bricks fail, right? So one of the pitfalls is that you should not take this exceptionally at the face value. You should allow the data a few alteration and churn before you can say that this particular brick that I'm laying is the right one, it's the right dashboard, it's looking at the right metrics. At the same time, it will serve the larger purpose at hand, right? So it's a multi-level strategy where you put your vision out there, but you look micro and allow even the micro dashboards or what you have analyzed, allow it to fail. It's okay that what you looked at, it makes no sense a month later, right? And that's the culture that needs to be set in, because traditionally, once things are set in, we assume that they should just be repeated. And I think in digital world, that is perhaps the last thing that you should be doing.
That's a wonderful, wonderful point there. I think just coming on the back of Deepak's point in terms of starting from the top and building a culture, I think the crux that you brought in is, look, don't have analysis paralysis, and don't try to interpret data in a way that it suits you, or biases can be created very quickly. I think these very, very valuable points right there. Mayank, your views on this in terms of learnings, pitfalls, best practices, etc.
So I mean, by best practices, I'm always of the believer, fail and learn. So but anyway, I would like to reflect upon, or maybe in terms of best practices, is a problem solving framework, which over the 9-10 years I have realized that a framework, if not put it rightly, it's like a recipe for complete disaster. Okay, so let's say as digital marketeers, from top down, right, from the CMO to the manager or the executive, right, there are different level of matrix, some North Star matrix, then L1, L2, L3, and every metric will be linked with an Uber goal, that let's say at top of the funnel, then you have to get, let's say, 1 million MAU and whatnot, right? So there would be different Uber goals linked to it. Now,
Yeah.
when we talk about, then there will be targets, right? That today the status quo is that you might be sitting at 2 million MAU, you have to take it to 5 million MAU, right? And now there the things start failing, wherein, when your manager asks, how can I do 5 million MAU? You start thinking of the solutions.
Yeah.
Okay, what are the solutions to do 5 million MAU? That's like a recipe for disaster to me, because you have to create your hypothesis that, okay, why am I not able to do 5 million? What are the reasons? When you think of the hypothesis, solutions are right across the corner.
Yeah.
But what we do, we don't think of the hypothesis that why are we not doing 5 million, or why are we stuck on 2 million? And you start jumping on the solutions directly, there the whole framework fails. So I'll give you an example. How do solutions arrive on their own? Let's say as a marketer, if I were being given a task that, I have to create 1 million prospects every month, right? Who could take a quote from Acko, and I'm sitting at, let's say 200 or 1,000, so the way we approach the problem is, wherein, okay, is coverage an issue? Okay, am I reaching out to all the right audiences or not? Okay, maybe the question would be yes or no. Let's say the question is no. Okay, am I using all the right channels? Or maybe maybe geography is an issue. I'm only in Bangalore and Hyderabad. I could expand to Delhi as well, so my coverage will automatically be there and I can drive the growth, right? Okay, coverage, check mark. Let's go to the other one. Maybe I'm reaching out to the right audiences, but people are not responding to me, right? Okay, got it. So maybe a CTR is an issue, right? Okay, is my messaging right? People are not even clicking on my message. They don't even respond. I'm investing maybe millions of dollars on TVC, but people don't even understand what do I stand for, right? Then that becomes a CTR issue. Okay, people do respond to me, but they don't even come to my website. Okay, inward looking, I have designed a great looking website, but my page performance is so poor, people don't even come to it. They are not able to land on it, right? Okay, what's the issue? Am I firing random pixels? Have I just so many third-party scripts or whatever, right? Or maybe I'm using images which are so heavy in nature, I need to get rid of them. Now when the user is on your website, then also he's not showing intent. Maybe what's the reason? Maybe you are a brand, he's not trusting you. Okay, maybe your form maybe your form is not correct, or maybe whatever the reasons are. So that's how you are trying to understand, okay, what are your hypotheses, and then you arrive at a solution rather than just thinking this is my Uber goal and this is the solution. Okay, this I have felt, keeps throwing solutions every fortnight, every month, and you will never be, empty of your bucket. Wherein, what do I need to solve for?
Wonderful. That's fantastic thought, because I've seen this as well with in some of the sort of customer meetings I've been, where the focus is very much on I need this, whereas once you really take a consultant perspective and dig a little deeper, there are more foundational problems that you probably need to understand, form those hypotheses in terms of where performance is potentially stuck. And oftentimes the solution may not even be sort of buying one more new Martech tool. It could be elsewhere, right? So yeah, fantastic thoughts there. Just sort of running towards the end of the mark here, so I will have to close this call. Though I think I would have loved to ask a few more questions of you three. But thank you very much, Deepak, Mayank, Gaurang, gentlemen. Thank you. This is an incredibly insightful session. Really enjoyed speaking with you, and I think for the people listening in, there are so many nuggets of information there. So thanks a lot for joining today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Subra.
Thank you.
Thank you.